Hi. Okay. Welcome everyone to the Strong Futures webinar. I'm Kia Coleman, and obviously this is the Department of Family and Support Services RFP that we'll be talking about here on December 1st. So our agenda is going to be, we're going to do a program overview and components, the eligibility criteria, scope of services and requirements, e-procurement, iSupplier, and then we'll have some time for questions. So we'll jump right in here to what is Strong Futures. And Strong Futures is a workforce initiative that is aimed at providing stability to opportunity youth, severely disconnected youth, and or justice-involved youth by providing full-time employment as the primary goal of the initiative. The program will also aim to address a variety of secondary goals that will assist the youth in not only obtaining but also retaining full-time employment. So there are a few components to the Strong Futures program. The first one is intensive case management. The coach case manager to youth ratio should be 1 to 17. So for a cohort of 50, which is what the Strong Futures cohort is, that is the number of youth in the cohort, that will work out to about 3 coaches or case managers for a cohort. The coaches and case managers should be reliable, caring adults in the lives of the youth that they serve. They are expected to be highly qualified with previous experience as mentors or case managers, and they should be able to both relate to the youth as well as demonstrate strong administrative capabilities for the purposes of keeping extensive case notes with clear and up-to-date documentation. So what this means is basically the coach slash case manager should be somebody who, over the 18 months of the initiative, which is how long the Strong Futures program lasts, should really embed themselves in the lives of the youth that they serve and make sure that they're able to work with them, get to know them so that they can help them and move them along the path. They also need to be able to document this, because this is how we will know what is happening, and also clearly helps the agency on the ground understand where the youth is starting, what progress they're making, etc. And so the person who is working with the youth should have both of these strengths. So the second component is workforce development, and the program model for Strong Futures looks to quickly connect youth who have barriers in obtaining and retaining employment to full-time jobs. The awarded agencies must have strong workforce development programming and a proven record of getting the targeted population employed quickly. And they must also be able to partner with employers and outside agencies to provide a diverse assortment of employment opportunities for youth. So what this means is that really the first purpose of this program is to take youth who it would be difficult, and it is difficult and has proven difficult for them to become employed and to maintain their employment. We want to help connect them to jobs. That's the first thing. And the way that we will look at agencies that apply to determine if they're capable of this is we need to see that you have a strong record of providing jobs for youth. And so that means being able to connect to both the public and the private workforce development market that's out there, as well as some experience working with youth who have barriers, because that adds an extra layer of complexity when you have to work with youth who are not necessarily coming with a robust employment history and who are not completely skilled up, etc. So we want to see that. And we just want to make sure that in addition to your own network of employers and employment opportunities, that you are also able to partner with others outside of yourself to sort of leverage the resources that are already existing. All right. The other component is what we call other services. And so a major component of this is delivering wraparound services that look to address issues related to employment and as well as secondary goals. The secondary goals are things that would pose critical barriers to the youth that would hinder them potentially from employment. So things like being homeless or being unstably housed, not having transportation, not having appropriate clothes, not having a high school diploma. There are still jobs for people who do not have their high school diploma, even if they want to also get that. But that's something that would be a critical barrier. A barrier such as um, not having childcare and being the primary caregiver. So that's a major component. Agencies are also required to provide supportive services to the youth to ensure they maintain their jobs once obtained. That means we are looking towards agencies to really work with the youth once they get a job to help them understand how to keep their job. Getting the job is one piece, maintaining it is another. So things like job circles where everyone gets together and talks about their challenges or all the great things that happened during the job, or sometimes someone may say, I've been late to work a couple of times, and that's where the coach would step in to ensure that they are learning to schedule their public transportation or schedule, even if they get up and drive, but schedule themselves appropriately. So we just want all those supportive services to also continue to be wrapped around them once they have a job so that they can retain it. And then we also really feel that it's important for agencies to have diverse programming in-house, but it is also important for delegate agencies to have partnerships with other organizations who can provide services that the delegate agency does not offer. And so I use this example all the time because providing mental health services is a very specialized niche, and not everyone provides that. And so if you provide a ton of services but not mental health services, and some of your youth need counseling and therapeutic services, if you can connect with another organization that provides that as a part of their regular in-house programming, that would be fantastic. That's an example of working with somebody who provides services that you don't offer. As far as the eligibility for the Strong Futures program, the participants should be between the ages of 18 and 24 years old, and they should meet at least one of the following criteria. They should be justice involved, and that would be youth who have a consistent history of arrest and or have been incarcerated. Opportunity youth, so youth who are not currently connected to school or to work and have not worked in particular over the last year, and chronically unemployed or underemployed youth, again, youth who have not worked over the past year or so. At least 50% should be incarcerated of your cohort. So you've got 50 people in your cohort, at least 50% should be incarcerated or have a criminal record. At least 30% should be without a high school credential, so no diploma or GED, and at least 75% of the cohort should be males. And I am able to answer more detailed questions about how we constructed the cohort percentages. These are important for agencies to abide by. So think about that when you're applying, in terms of if you're able to, do you believe that you'll be able to connect with 37 males in your community? That's what 75% of 50 is. Do you believe that you'll be able to connect with 15, 15 of the people in the cohort will not, at least 15 will not have a diploma or a GED. So these are the things to think about when you think about the youth that you have a connection to. Youth will receive a stipend of $100 per week while unemployed, as long as they are actively searching for employment. And we stress this because you will have 50 people, and even though everyone will say that they want a job, and you should recruit accordingly, there will still be people who, once you really start working with them, they won't actively begin doing the things that they need to do in order to get a job. So they may not go to the trainings that you have them scheduled for. They may not show up for interviews. They may not put in applications right away. That is okay as long as you're working to move them towards that. And we assume if you recruited them that you do believe that eventually you'll be able to move them towards that. However, the stipend is only for those youth that are actively engaged in looking for employment, because that is the major outcome of this program. And so that is how we are incentivizing the participants. There are 50 youth per agency, and successful respondents will be able to recruit the youth through their own networks, and they are responsible for recruiting youth in particular that live in the community where services are being provided. So these are the eligible communities that the Strong Futures program can be run in. And so if you are located and operating in these communities, that is great. You are eligible to apply. If you do not operate in these communities, then you are not eligible to apply. Scope of services and requirements. Delegate agency responsibilities are to hire the appropriate staff to run the Strong Futures initiative, train, supervise, and provide ongoing professional development for the case managers and program coordinator, and actively collaborate with other community partners and organizations, and refer Strong Futures participants to their programs where appropriate. There are obviously many more delegate responsibilities, but in terms of the way that we look at the program being rolled out on the ground, the very first things that you need to do are make sure that you are staffing up appropriately, training appropriately, and then recognizing that a main piece of this program is to collaborate with other agencies that exist in your community area. The coaches and case managers are required to recruit the 50 youth, to conduct extensive intake and assessments, to establish strong relationships with the youth, to coordinate services for the youth like job fairs, workshops, clothing supports, etc., to ensure that youth get connected to full-time jobs, and to work with youth to increase job retention. So there are many more things that the youth, that the case managers will be responsible for, but these are the main things. Again, when we think of how programming rolls out on the ground, you're going to need to recruit and get to know the youth, continue your relationships with them, make sure that you are a service coordinator, and then, of course, making sure that they get connected and keep the jobs that they get. As far as how we look at the program, and what outcomes and performance goals we look at, awarded respondents will be responsible for tracking and reporting out on the following. So 90% of youth are expected to achieve full-time employment by the end of the program. 80% of youth will retain their job for at least 180 days. 75% or more of youth with prior justice involvement will not recidivate while enrolled in Strong Futures, and 75% of youth will report a positive relationship with their coach. So again, these are the things that when the successful respondents, when we know who is awarded and we start meeting to go over program implementation, we will work with you on how to, obviously we'll be tracking this in CitySpan, but we'll work with you in terms of how you can set yourselves up for success in order to actually meet these benchmarks. The selection criteria for Strong Futures is the same as for all of our programs. And it is broken down into 4 categories, and that is previous program experience, program design and administration/fiscal capacity, and budget. And so what this means is, for previous program experience, we're not necessarily looking to see if you have a previous program with the youth division, but do you have any programmatic experience that shows that you are able to work with this population doing this kind of service? That's what we're looking for. In terms of program design and administration, we have provided some very specific parameters and some specific outcome measures, but there is a lot of latitude that obviously agencies have in terms of how they actually run their program. And so when you write your RFP and you're describing how you're going to reach these outcome measures and how you're going to incorporate the things that we have put in the RFP, you need to be cognizant of the fact that that is how we determine and score. And we're looking to see, are you designing a program that actually sounds like it's going to address the issues that we want to address? Or are you doing something totally different? So, for instance, if you submitted a program design proposal that focused, like where maybe 90% of what you said you were going to provide is a ton of exposure to, sports activities, while that would be great for a certain program because that has nothing to do with strong futures, we would not be able to score you highly on your programmatic design. That's an extreme example just to show you that you need to be very thoughtful when you list how you're actually going to run the program. Admin and fiscal capacity just lets us know that you're able to actually manage the program if you get it with the staff that you have, and that you have enough money to be able to contract with the city, which we do obviously contract only on a reimbursement basis, which I will mention in a minute. And then we score, also the criteria is your budget. And so that, again, is a way in which we see if you've actually been able to understand the purpose of the program. If you're budgeting for things that have absolutely nothing to do with the program, then that shows us that you don't quite get it. So be very thoughtful, again, when you're crafting your budget. For the budget, we anticipate funding 2 agencies. Between each award for each agency will be between $500,000 and $700,000 for the 18-month period. The payments are on a reimbursement basis only, as I just mentioned. So that just means that this is standard for all of you who've contracted with the city before. We don't give any advances. So you have to be able to pay for all of your services up front, voucher us, and then we reimburse you. And the budget should support programmatic needs. The last thing is, or the next to last thing, is that we want to talk about continued support. And what we mean, really what we should be saying here is we want to talk about your sustainability plan. If you are awarded the contract for the 18-month period, typically with city contracts, then, there's a potential in many cases for the contract to be extended. What we want to let you know is that if you do get extended support, the support will be for a lesser amount than this initial award. So you will not again be awarded $500,000 or $600,000 or $700,000. It will be less. And the reason we expect it to be less is that we expect you to be able to achieve some economies of scale for 3 reasons. 1, Strong Futures is a program model that is highly dependent on leveraging linkages and partnerships, and it's expected that you will have taken this initial 18-month period to strengthen your existing relationships. So, example, if you strengthen relationships with an agency that provides services that you do not have to pay for, then that's an example of a cost that you no longer have to bear. The second reason is that during this initial period, we also want you to establish new contacts with people and new linkages. And so, again, driving down costs. You do not have to voucher us for costs for therapy and mental health because you have partnered with an agency that provides this on their own. And so that's an example of a cost that you don't have to bear. And the third is that we want you to use the initial program funding and time to actually show that this program works, that you are able to, with these supports, employ people, get people connected, and make a case to other potentially private funders, philanthropists, as well as leveraging any other grant money that you have from other sources. So expect, and when you apply, understand that the continued support will be for a lesser amount. And then finally, very important, iSupplier. Everyone who wants to apply for this RFP needs to register. So the Department of Procurement Services manages the registration process, and you can register at the links that you see on the slide. And you must have an FEIN number as well as a W-9 for registration and confirmation. So if you're new, you'd register at the link. And if you are an existing vendor, um, then follow the directions that are under bullet number 2, and you should receive a response from DPS so that you can complete the registration process. Just note that you need to make sure you check your junk or your spam folder to make sure that you didn't miss anything once you send an email. The timeline is the RFP was released on November 21st. Today is December 1st, and we are obviously doing the webinar today. And then December 21st at noon is when the proposal is due. And I just want to make a note that noon is the actual deadline. 12:01, your application will not be accepted. It is a computerized system. We do not control it. In fact, as we said, DPS controls it. We have no ability to accept anyone who does not get their application in exactly at noon. I suggest not waiting until the last minute to upload it, because no matter how amazing it is, we literally will not be able to take it even if it comes in at 12:01. So please make sure that you take care of all of your technical difficulties so that you don't get stuck at the last minute, because no matter what happens, we won't be able to accept it. And then February 1st, program is expected to begin. So sometime in the month of January, we will be letting awarded agencies know who actually was successful. And so that is basically the information that we have for you here today. I am available, as well as Raysana Riley, to answer any questions you have. You can email us. We will send out this webinar, a link to this webinar, and we will include also all of our contact information, including our direct extension. So thank you so much for attending. We appreciate it. And then we will also be sending out a transcribed list of the questions that were asked, as well as the answers that we give. All right. Thank you.